Persevere, run your route. Don't you ever let them feed into your doubts. Make a way, work it out. Don't get caught up.
What's up, fam? Welcome back to the Time is Right podcast. This is Scott Smith, and we are so excited that you would spend a little bit of time out of your day to join us here on the pod. We got a special episode for you guys with a couple of amazing guests. We're going back in time to June 29th through July 1st, 2022. And to talk about this whole situation known as CreationFest, I got a couple of guests here. Back on the pod, I believe this is your second time on the pod, Mr. Esteban Nieves. What's up, baby?
How's it going?
Welcome back, the Manoa.
Good to be here.
The Manoa. Manoa right. Church guy.
I don't think that worked.
I thought it was great. We also got Mr. Jarrett Moses. You just heard his voice. Top Mop Productions.
Jarrett.
I'm always here.
He is always here.
True.
Whether he's on a microphone
knows.
or not, he is
literally
in the room.
always here.
He's the man responsible for this whole thing called Time is Ripe. So thank you, Jarrett. We appreciate you so much. We also got a first-timer on the pod, Mr. Greg Snow, a.k.a. Free the Poets, a.k.a. The Snowman. Welcome to Time is Ripe, sir.
AKA, man, it's great to be here. I am a poet that's connected to the Ripe community, and I've gotten to do a couple things with them, and I'm excited for more. So it's good to be here to talk creation.
CreationFest. We've known Greg for a little while, and I don't know. I don't think this will be his last time on the pod.
Absolutely not.
I think
that would be
on a
surprised.
couple more episodes.
Actually, I'm also surprised.
I have been mentioned, but I've never been on.
All right.
Yes, I've been added a couple times.
Yeah, Greg's one of the only people who listens to this podcast, so it's fitting to actually have him on it.
Long time listener, first time caller.
Exactly. So honestly, though, this is an episode that could have went a lot of different directions. Probably could have done it over a couple, like part 1, part 2, part 3.
Oh yeah.
We have a lot of people who are missing from today's episode that could have been on this. We could have had Josh Schaefer, Anthony Gordon, Rick Harmoney, Abel, Demir,
all of Demir's band.
Doc, Sergine. Yeah, I mean, there's a whole 7-piece band. There's a lot of people that could have been on this episode. It's been months that we've been trying to record it, and it was just really hard. You know, everybody's schedule is getting, the right people in the room kind of turned into whoever can be here. And so we finally picked the date to record, and this is who we got. So I'm excited, though, because I think it'll be a special episode. Este's here because he was a through line for some of the sets. Greg's also here because he was a performer on one of the sets and was a part of another one that none of us were at. And Jarrett is here because he did sound and a lot of the prep work leading up to creation as well. So this is a good little squad to be here, but shout out to all the missing guests,
We miss you.
We miss you.
We do miss you.
We wish you were here.
Maybe.
Rip.
So I'll start just with a little bit of context for CreationFest. What is it? How we got connected to it? How we got booked for it? CreationFest is a massive Christian music festival in Central PA. In the late 90s, early 2000s, it was, peaking about over 100,000 people every year. It was known as the Woodstock of Christian music festivals. It was huge, massive, definitely shrunk in size over the past, 10 years or so, but still a really big festival. And shout out to Bill Darpino. He's a good friend. He used to be the president of Creation. He has since stepped back to a consultant role. But in January of 2022, he hit me up and said, hey, send me all your Ripe artists. We're going to see who we can get on this thing. And so I sent, music videos and Spotify links, and they got back to us on January 29th and decided to book Abel, Rick Harmoney, Demir, as well as give myself a slot for a spoken word takeover kind of hour, which then I ended up flipping into Greg and Sergine and Doc Hero and DJ Angie for some reason. We had like a whole weird mosh podge of poetry and hip hop.
Stool Doc.
Stool Doc did not happen, but we'll get to that.
I was gonna say I don't think Stool Doc was there.
But we had
I felt him.
We had 4 sets. Abel and Rick did Wednesday opening, main stage. The first artist on the entire festival, Abel, Rick Harmoney, did a joint set.
Cut the ribbon.
and they cut the ribbon. Esty was a part of that. DJ and G,
Yep.
Joshua Schaefer was on drums. It was pretty awesome. Then on Thursday, we had a Fringe Stage Demir set with him, his live band, which Esty was a part of that.
Killer.
It was amazing. On Friday is whenever we did the poetry, Ripe Takeover spoken word set. And Friday night at midnight, which technically I guess is Saturday, was the after party late night set. So those were the 4 sets. 3 of those were planned. The after party was an additional thing. So that's what we're going to be talking about today is these different sets at Creation Fest, and then hopefully getting to share some of the value and impact of it. But yeah, I guess big picture, it was really cool to be invited.
It was cool. Yeah.
It was really cool for us to get this opportunity. Relationship, we say this on this podcast a lot, but relationship opens the door more than even talent, I think, more than platform, more than, how many followers you have or how many Spotify listeners you have. A relationship will get you in the door more than any of that stuff. And I think that's Creation is a testament to that.
Yeah. 100%. 100%.
Yeah. Honestly,
cool.
After being at Creation, I feel like without that relationship, the only way any of the artists that we have would have gotten on anytime soon is through that competition they have to get on main stage, where you come in, like you almost have to pay to do a little performance for judges, and then whoever wins gets to perform main stage.
Yeah. Yeah, they do like a competition, almost like an America's Got Talent on Friday, where you are like a contestant and one of those people wins and gets on stage. And that's, that definitely would have been an option.
Means a lot to get asked instead of to ask.
True.
Yeah.
It felt like, it just felt so cool to be like, oh, we're asked. We don't have to compete. Like,
yes.
Thanks again, Bill Darpino. You the man.
Yes.
Thanks.
Yes.
Scott, let me ask you something. How did you meet Bill? Or like, how did he hear about Ripe stuff? Like, what was the connection there? Because I don't think I knew like how he knew Ripe at all.
Yeah, so I had a very funny first time meeting with Bill, because I had heard of Bill for a long time as the guy you need to know if you want to get people into creation. And I was at Jubilee Conference in Pittsburgh.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
And Creation was there. Like they had a
word.
table. And I just happened to be playing Spike Ball, that little game with like the ring with the net,
Oh,
with Joy and Peace
Amazing
Ike's
game. We all know the game.
little brothers.
Love the game.
You guys might. We are speaking to listeners, guys. We're not just in a room by ourselves.
If you don't know the game,
It was a college fad. I don't know how many.
We hope
spike
you
ball
love
nets I
the
would see on
game.
campus.
If not, go try it. Buy it from Target. Check it out.
Listen, without Spike Ball, this whole creation thing probably
Go
never
to Spike
happens.
Ball.
That's
put in the code
crazy.
creative
Because-
22.
Listen,
kidding. There's no code. There's
No code. We're not sponsored.
Just not creation for us.
Ripe. Ripe 22.
Here we go. So here's what happened. I'm playing Spike Ball with Joy and Peace Ike's little brothers. The ball goes over to Creation Fest's table.
Oh.
And I go over there to get the ball, and I'm having a random conversation. I'm like, oh man, I was supposed to meet up with or reach out to this guy named Bill to talk to him about what I do now. And he was like, oh, I'm Bill.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, sick. And I was like, introduced myself. He had heard of me.
Wow.
And so we had a conversation. He's like, yeah, let's get, coffee soon. And that was
Dang.
in 2019, 2020. And that turned into the virtual Creation Fest during the pandemic
got
that
it.
we got the guys on. And then obviously they didn't do it again in 2021. So they brought us back for 2022.
Wow.
But
That's
yeah,
a crazy story.
it really happened because I was at Jubilee.
That's amazing. Playing Spike Ball.
Yes.
Question is, did you ever go back to play Spike Ball, or did you make them wait to continue playing?
Yeah, I went back and played. I wasn't going to
Or did
cannibalize a guy's
Or did you
time.
throw your ball elsewhere to see who else you can meet?
Yeah, that's what I should have done. There's probably 5 other podcast episodes that are missing because I didn't continue to throw the ball at other tables.
Exactly.
It's so funny. Yeah, but let's just work through the festival set by set and just kind of debrief it together, just for the people who weren't able to be there to be able to hear a little bit about what happened at Creation Fest in terms of Ripe's participation in it this year. So let's start with Wednesday. Opening set, Rick Harmoney, Abel, Este's on stage playing electric guitar, Angie is DJing, Josh Schaefer is playing drums, Jarrett is running front of house.
That was fun.
at CreationFest, which we didn't even know that you were allowed to do that.
Yep.
That just like
Shout
happened.
out Jarrett.
We found that out like 2 weeks before
Yeah.
when Ant was like filling out some forms or whatever. He's like, "This says we can bring a front of house guy." I was like, "Oh, cool." He's like, "Do you want to go?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, sure."
Yeah, it was sick. I mean, Creation, their staging, their production.
Yeah, it's top.
bar
It's
none.
top notch. Yeah, it's
There's
it's
like
really
$1 million
good.
on that stage.
Yeah,
More.
Definitely-
Definitely more.
Wow.
Definitely more.
Yeah.
it's definitely definitely a super high level.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big, big, big festival. But yeah, I mean, it was really cool. They had like a huge runner out into the audience, so to speak. And then the stage was obviously back. Big stage. I mean, huge hanging stuff, lights, big LED walls,
Pyrotechnics.
Only
fireworks.
certain bands.
I know only certain bands, but it was still there. Like we
Yeah,
were standing
yeah.
right beside it. So
So, ta-da.
Getting to be side stage was a surreal experience.
yeah, side
Without
stage
people
was
being
cool.
like, "Hey, get out of here!"
right, right.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I've been side stage, just kicked out like momentarily
right
after.
after. We weren't meant to be there.
Yeah, no, it was super cool. I mean, just getting the passes to be able to be back there and just kind of hanging out with the who's who of Christian music artistry world, being able to rub shoulders with people that you've looked up to or been listening to their music or seen at the festival in years past. I think was really special.
Yeah, agreed 100%. It was, for me, it was super, well, first off, just being there felt pretty nostalgic because I'd been there a bunch before. I mean, I probably went to Creation like 4 times or 5 times as a kid.
Wow.
Just never on that, like, obviously never backstage because like I was a kid, I was just learning guitar and stuff. So being there in the back was super cool. Seeing like all the guys like running stuff and all the techs like working with gear that I could never afford. It was just cool. It was like it was a fun and surreal experience. Just being in the back and like, yeah, seeing all that stuff and yeah, seeing the tour buses and stuff and seeing like people that I had seen as a kid come out of the tour buses and be like, oh, that's the lead singer of Red or something like that. You know, like stuff, like just people I recognized. It was just cool being back there. And yeah.
It was super cool. And Creation treated us extraordinarily well.
Yeah, they did.
Extraordinarily well. Like in terms of the VIP passes and the like food passes and all that kind of stuff. We probably
We took it
shouldn't.
too far.
We took it way too far.
Yeah, it's probably
We took advantage of the situation
amazing.
a lot. They were like, "Oh yeah, just come eat with us," you know, like Apollos was back there. Like,
True.
Yeah. Thanks, Creation.
yeah,
And also, we're sorry.
yeah, we're so sorry. We didn't know we were taking advantage of the situation at all. We just ended up. I think it was because I went to go get the food vouchers, but Rick had already gotten food vouchers.
Oh yeah.
And then Aaron was like, "Yo,
yeah.
I
It
need
was-
food vouchers." So like everybody from our crew just like went up and got them.
Yeah.
So
And
we
I
just
think
had like
our
3X.
vouchers and passes were only valid for one day, and we did it.
Oh, we
every
did it
day.
every day. Yeah. Oh, we were there for 3 days. We were like, we got more sets.
I didn't buy water once. I just kept walking back to the tent.
That like you're only
Scott was able to feed his Diet Coke, Coke Zero addiction for free.
Yes, for free. And at CreationFest, that's tough to do because those drinks are expensive.
Yeah, we needed to rake in the stardom as long as we could, and if stardom meant, sloppy joes and water, then so be it. So be it. I'm here for it.
Oh man.
It was really cool. I just I feel like Abel, Rick Harmoney, even with what Jarrett's saying, like I don't think at their current stage they would normally get this invitation. I think they did well. They did not feel like, oh, they shouldn't have gotten that opportunity from a talent perspective. And I think bigger than that is just their character. Like that, I think it's exciting that 2 young guys who are super talented that have great character are being given that opportunity, that you can trust that they're going to steward it well. Relationship with young people who come up to them like, oh man, that was awesome. I really loved your music. They're not trying to leverage that for anything negative. They just want to advance the kingdom in people's lives. And so we had like a table up after the set, and like a lot of people came up and talked to you guys and got to build a relationship with them. What do you have anything to say from your end about the set itself?
No, I mean, I thought it went really well. It had its challenges, right? Like, I don't think any of us had been on a stage that big, like in size. Like, it
Physical
was a huge
stage
stage,
size,
yeah,
yeah.
physical stage size, and there was only like 5 of us up there. So figuring out how to like use the whole stage was definitely a challenge. But I thought Rick and Aaron, they did a pretty good job at like being on the, what's that walkout thing
Catwalk.
called? Yeah, the
Catwalk.
catwalk, and like interacting with people in the audience and stuff like that. It was cool. It was definitely a good like first time experience of us being there at a stage that big. And yeah, definitely enjoyed the main stage hanging there and playing and stuff like that. It was cool.
Yeah. Cody is awesome too. The main tech
Yeah.
guy
Yeah.
at main stage, just like, you know, the best in the business, knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
And they're just super organized and like
Yeah,
they know
yeah.
what they're doing. How was your end like doing front of house on something that scale?
It was daunting only in that I had never used the board. Or no, I had used that board once at a completely different event, but I was running like in-ear monitors. So I wasn't even using most of the functions. I was just using like controls to control what people heard. I didn't control EQs, compression, sends. I wasn't doing any of that before. So it was daunting in that aspect.
Yeah.
Like if their tech that actually ran most of the festival hadn't been there, I would have been dead in the water.
Oh, really?
Because I used his basic scene and he was there answering any questions I had, things like that. But this guy was like running the board. I look back, like Dante Bowe and like a bunch of the other performers, they didn't bring their own engineers. He was mixing them.
wow.
I watched him on the board for like 7 other people.
Dang.
Hey, he's tough. Whoever that dude is, shout out to him. Creation's next level. I mean, the main stage
Yeah.
is
Facts.
it's different. It's different. So it was a great Wednesday. We obviously had that great experience. Got to hang out with some people. Went back and got ready for Thursday. Thursday was a really big day. It was the day of Demir's set, and Demir had a huge, more full house band.
Yeah. It was a
2
full
electric,
team.
space, keys, drums, and Angie
Yeah.
with Demir. And Fringe Stage is interesting because even though it's not the scale of main stage, it is awesome too.
Yeah, it's awesome too.
And the audience is right in front of you.
Yeah, that was a vibe. That
The
was
pit
amazing.
is like what makes Fringe
Yeah.
Stage great.
Yeah.
yeah,
I think it coming like if you've never been, it's basically like a hill, and then the hill comes down, and there's the stage.
There's the
So it's
stage,
like
yeah.
all on the hill, and then in your backdrop, you just see the mountains of central
Yeah.
Pennsylvania, and so it's like it's amazing, and they're right there.
Yeah, the audience is like so close to
Yeah.
the stage that a lot of times actually it's more engaging as a performer at Fringe Stage than even main stage.
Yeah.
Because I think probably Demir and Rick and Aaron, like they all had, there was probably the same amount of people at each one, but it felt a lot more full at Fringe Stage because everyone was able to be a lot closer.
Yeah.
Because at main stage, everyone's spread out.
Yeah, over
It
like
felt
acres and
empty.
acres of
Yeah.
fields.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. And we're also closer to each other. Like there's no barrier in the middle because
True.
of the runner.
Yeah.
So everybody's just kind of packed in, and that brings the dynamic up.
Yep.
Yeah, and for me, the Fringe Stage, like being there and playing there, that show was just like so much more like fun because everyone was tight. Like all the people in the congregation, church, all the people in the audience were like vibing, and we could see them and interact with them. Whereas,
And it's
like
primarily
you said,
young people.
yeah, and like you said, like Greg said, I think like the main or like all of us said, the main stage was just huge. Everyone was spaced apart, so it was way harder to kind of like engage. But with the Fringe, it was like no, you had to engage or you were bad, honestly, because like they were literally right there. Like you could reach out and touch some of them. Like so, that was way more of a vibe. Like I loved that.
Yep.
There were some like some things that were hard is like there was an artist before us at the Fringe Stage. So we didn't have as long as like a sound check and as long as like an in-ear check. So some of us in the band were just like, we just had like the track in our ears. And I had one ear out so I could like hear Josh and the other instruments. Oh, Josh Schaefer was playing drums, everybody. So it was a really interesting experience being on the stage from a sound perspective at the Fringe, but from like an audience like interaction perspective, it was 10 out of 10. I would
Yeah.
do that again.
Oh yeah, it was awesome.
Like it was so fun.
Yeah, and they had a ton of like major artists on the Fringe stage.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
For
that
sure.
like, oh, this makes sense for them to be here because it's such a more engaging space.
Yeah.
For like hip hop in particular, or metal or whatever it is. You know, these more fringy,
Yeah. yeah.
artist forms than CCM or gospel on the main stage.
Yeah.
But I think one of the cool things about what we did before Demir said, actually, Greg had a huge hand in this, is that we decided to just go around the festival and pass out flyers to Demir's set at Creation, which kind of sounds a little bit ridiculous. People are already at the festival.
Right.
They have the app. They can, find out what they want to go to. But there's, 50,000 people there, 20,000 people there, however many there are. 99% of them don't know who Demir is.
Right.
Wasn't
No.
that suggested by a lady that was at Creation? Like she said, "Hey, you should print something out and hand them out," because like that was a last minute decision to even try that.
I believe it was.
Oh,
I
it was
believe
one
it
of the
was
staff?
the director of the Fringe stage.
Oh, that girl.
The stage
yeah.
manager. She was saying, "Hey, you will get way more people if you send
Yeah.
people out and do it." And so I think she said that on Wednesday. And so Thursday morning, as my friend Simone and Apollos and I are driving up, Demir texts us like, "Hey, I need some flyers." And so we printed them out at my church, cut them up, and cut up some ones for the poetry. And then we just hightailed it to Central Pennsylvania to pass them out.
Yep.
You
And
guys
we
came
did.
in super clutch with that, Greg. Honestly, that was like
I mean,
a
there
great
were-
idea.
I remember seeing, because we split up and we passed these things out, and there was at least a dozen people that I had handed a flyer to that came. Because
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
it catches
that's
you
the
off
point.
guard.
Yeah, it does for
Yeah.
sure.
Like it catches you off guard. Like, oh, somebody cares enough about their friend to hand me this
Yeah.
flyer for me to go see their friend. Like that is really all right. I'll go check it out.
Yeah.
Because you're not really doing anything else. You could just be hanging back at your campsite or whatever else.
Yeah.
Because it's a live-on campsite
Yeah.
kind of thing.
It was 2 p.m. Like most of the main artists were not going. There was no
True,
main stage.
true.
You might be
5,
getting
yeah.
some French fries with pulled pork, or you might be like sleeping in your tent, but you're not really doing much.
Right.
So we're actually offering you an opportunity to have a good time at 2:00
Yeah,
in the afternoon.
Yeah.
True.
So people came and it was lit and the energy was crazy and stage was awesome. Jarrett helped out with sound again there.
I enjoyed mixing that one more because
Word.
like there wasn't as much prep time, but there was more to really mix and mess with, and it was a little less daunting because it was a board that I was familiar with.
What was the board there?
It was an Avantis
Oh,
from
nice.
Allen and Heath versus like a big old Digico S9 or whatever it's
Jarrett's
called.
nerding out again. This podcast like becomes there's moments where this
Gear
becomes
Talks with Jarrett.
Top Mop Productions YouTube channel.
No, there was one hard part though. It was a miscommunication, and Demir had the wrong mic, but we were still seeing the one he was supposed to have on, and we were like, "Why are we not getting levels out of
Yeah.
him?" And then we flip to a different page of the board,
And
and
there
we see a
was-
different mic getting correct levels. Turn it up, there he is, and we're like, "Oh my god, we missed like the first half of a song." No
Yeah.
Demir, no one heard anything he said.
Yep.
Yikes.
Yeah, I think I
Doc
remember
comes back and he's just like, "Bro, Demir's not in the house." I'm like, "Yeah, I know."
that. Yeah,
I will say though, like the band carried in that song when that happened, and I told this to Demir personally, but in terms of just artists or those thinking about ways to engage with your specific stage, your specific context, like the Fringe stage has a history of being a heavy metal stage.
Yeah, facts.
And so even in the morning, there are still heavy metal artists. And so Demir's hip hop performance actually had a very heavy tone to it. A lot of his songs were really robust.
Yeah.
A lot of guitar from SD, drums from Josh. And so even metalheads, like there was this guy who clearly, I don't think he's ever listened to Lecrae in his life, but you could tell he was just moshing. Like he was like flipping around and loving it.
Nice.
And it was like, wow, okay, like this is making an impact, even
Yeah.
though he may have never heard hip hop ever.
Yeah.
yeah, that was good.
Also, Greg, let me just say, bro, at the Fringe stage,
You,
huge
Greg.
shout out to you because you got the crowd like so hype. Like it was amazing. Like just the way you were engaging people. Like because of you being there, it was more fun. I'm gonna be straight, like, because like you would just like lead chants, like random chants, and so the crowd would like do it, and it just like made the energy like way more energetic than I think I was expecting.
Yep.
So that was a vibe. So thank you for doing that, because that was lit.
Definitely. I think kind of similar to you, SD. I've been to Creation once before as like a teenager, and I was like rocking out to metal at the Fringe stage, but didn't really know what metal was at that point. And so like it brought back that nostalgia, and it was like, this is my friend. Like, we need to go absolutely crazy. So we were chanting like, if you're ready for Demir, let me hear you say yeah. And like,
That was hilarious.
no one was leading that anywhere else. I was just like, let's see if people follow. And these young crew, like, kudos to them, man. They just went with it, and they were there for a good time.
Yeah, it was
There's a lot of sweat.
Make sure you
Sweaty
drink
mess.
water if you're going to go into that. I drank no water that day, and I remember looking directly at the lady that was doing security, and I was like, I need a cup of water. Like, I'm going to pass out right now. And then the Pina Colada came on, and she's like going to give me the water, and I'm like, Pina Colada! I'm just like, oh, we'll get it next time.
I'm gonna die.
I'm going to die, but Pina Colada, I'm feeling sweet.
So funny.
If you've listened to this podcast before, this is not the first time we've talked about Greg's ability to hype a crowd.
Temple University episode.
Oh,
yeah.
Temple, yeah.
Nah, we really appreciate it, Greg. And I honestly like that, combined with the flyers, combined with even just the way that we like, went around to different campsites, talked to people. I think the word for us that I really challenged our crew with, all week, that even in our post game, post Creation Fest debrief, I was like, we have to be the most intentional people on the grounds.
Yep.
Yeah, facts.
Like, we cannot just show up and perform like everybody else does. And it's no shade on everybody else, but Ripe should be different.
Yeah.
Our crew should be there to engage, to serve, to love, to make sure that we're intentional. And I feel like Thursday was a day where like that intentionality kind of played itself out. I think Wednesday we're kind of getting our bearings still, and we're a little bit nervous, didn't really know what to do. Like, where should we be? What can we do? What can we not do? And by Thursday, we kind of were more settled that if we did Creation Fest again in 2024 or something like that, I think we would know, all right, here's the ways we want to make this 3-4 days count to a whole different level.
Yeah.
Because of, that Thursday story, I think. Intentionality is so key at those big things. Because it's easy to just like do the show,
and
get in the
hide.
car,
Yeah.
and hightail it out of there. And it's like, if that's what you're doing, there's almost no point to making the trip. There's got to be an impact and investment in the lives of the people that you're there to do stuff with. Because otherwise it becomes like a commercialized thing.
Yeah, true.
And you don't want your faith to feel like a commercialized thing.
No, because I think when you actually become intentional, it's not like, oh, I've done something good, but you realize you get to meet people and they actually impact you. And you see their energy for your set. You see their passion for creation, their passion for God and the way he uses creativity and artistry. And it's just like, wow, maybe I really needed a dose of that.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have got that if I would have just came and left.
Yeah.
Also, you actually, both what you guys said just reminded me of like the thing that happened with Aaron up at the pavilion after his set, where like we were there hanging out and stuff at the Ripe table, and like this random family from like Indiana like came and was like, it was like a bunch of kids and like their parents, and they were like, bro, we've been listening to your music, like we saw you on the Creation ad, we started listening to your music and we love you. Like, we love your music. And they're like, Aaron had never met them before, they had never met him, but like those kids are literally never gonna forget that. They like met one of their favorite artists that they just discovered like 2 months ago. And awesome. Also Aaron like met random fans from like Indiana of all places. Like, that was crazy. So like what you guys both said just reminded me of that.
Shout out to Indiana. Go Culvers. Go Hoosiers.
Go Hoosiers. No, it's good, man. Yeah, I just appreciate so much about like Ant, you, Josh, the investment you three made in making both Wednesday and Thursday what they were. Because you guys sacrificed a lot, to do all the rehearsals, to get the sets together, to make sure you guys were on point in your musicianship, so that the artist could thrive. And it's sometimes just overlooked. Like you just think, oh, that artist, their set was amazing. You forget all the details and all the work that's done by the people behind the scenes to make sure that it's good. And I really appreciate it. Like, okay, big opportunity, creation calls. Let's be excellent. Let's not be a one and done artist at creation. Let's make sure we go above and beyond. Because I think it'd be easy to be like, oh, there's not a huge budget. Right. You know, they're just kind of giving us this slot and then not invest some resources or time into making it better. And I was really proud of all of you guys for like taking it to a different level. Because those sets would have been very different without the bands.
Yeah,
for
facts.
sure.
Definitely.
Yeah. So
that's very true.
Now we get to Friday. Friday was, I think in a lot of ways, we want to center this episode on this story because it was unique. So I was asked to perform spoken word at creation in the tent stage, which is like the third stage of creation. So you got main, you got fringe, you got tent. And, you know, because I had pitched kind of this idea of spoken word being utilized at CreationFest, you know, in a transitionary kind of space. And I don't think they fully understood what I was saying. So they were like, well, you know, you can do spoken word over here. And I was like, okay. And then I realized they wanted me to do an hour of spoken word. And I was like, I'm not doing an hour.
I didn't know that.
I was like, I'm not doing an hour. So what I said was, you know, do you trust me enough to just design the hour? And they're like, yeah, absolutely. I said, okay. Yeah. So then I just hit up Greg, Sergine, AVG, a couple other poets that I knew, Ashley, really a bunch of people, and just said, hey, I'm doing this set at CreationFest. Let me know if you want in. And Greg was one of the ones, and Sergine was the other, right? Sergine was the one who came, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So the three of us decided to do it together. And I think we had Rashid was supposed to do singer-songwriter stuff, and then he dropped out. And Ant just was like, oh, yeah, I got Doc instead. And I was like, bro, what do you mean you got Doc instead? Doc. I was like, you didn't even ask me.
Yeah, when you think of poetry, you don't think Doc Hero.
Hip-hop. Yeah, you definitely don't. But it ended up being perfect. But I did not expect it at all, because I was like, all right, let's do poem, songwriter, song, poem, songwriter, song. Ant G will DJ and do the transitions. But Ant is just like that. He just wants to get his friends involved. Yeah. So like whenever he's like, oh, Rashid's not in, okay. And I was like already making another plan. And then he hits me up like, yo, Doc's going to come. And I was like, how are you giving away some of my sets and stuff? What are you doing? But I do love Doc. So I was like, all right, bet. You know, Doc will
also,
come.
for the people listening, Ant G, all of his friends are legit. Yes. They're not like scrubs. You know what I'm saying? Like Doc Hero is literally like top notch hip hop artist. Like it's not like some random dude that like none of us know. Like he's not only amazing at hip hop, but he knows his stuff when it comes to like touring and being on stage. He's an amazing performer. Like he has way more experience than like most of us, honestly. Yep. Most of me, at least. So like
they've all done tours together. Didn't Doc say that's not the first time he was at Creation?
Yeah.
Performing? Yeah. That's what I thought.
Him and Drew did a set. I actually helped them get booked for that in 2018. Yeah. But yeah, so either way, it was really cool because Doc decided to be Stool Doc was the plan. And I was like, what's Stool Doc? And Ant was like, Stool Doc? You've never seen Stool Doc? I was like, dude, I have no idea who Stool Doc is. And he was pitching it as like Doc sits on a stool and does more like vibey hip hop.
Oh, word.
Stool
and
Doc.
Isn't like jumping up and down going crazy. So it would fit the spoken word stuff.
Right.
We get to the set. And by the way, there was a ton of people there. Yeah. Like a lot of people came to our spoken word set.
And many
it
of them
that it was raining, and that was the only cover in the field.
Yeah, it was raining. People came in.
That was the Lord.
Some
Lord
people were coming.
The Lord was like, "We're gonna send everybody to this spoken word set."
Yeah, some people were even there from Demir's set the day before.
Yeah, from
some
Aaron
people were
and
there
Rick's.
from a devotional. We met them in the morning, and we just told them to show up, and they did.
They did. Yeah.
Some people were there from the like clown kids event right before, and they just didn't want to leave
because it was raining. But there was a lot of people there, and you know, it's trying to be like a vibey tone, all that kind of stuff. Angie's spinning, and I introduced Greg first, I think, right?
Yeah.
And Greg comes out like a WWE wrestler. And he's like, yeah, everybody, come on, get up.
In my defense, when I was talking to my aunt, and he's like, I got you. I got the song for you to come out with. And I'm like, okay. And so, it's a poet. I'm thinking like he's going to do something like
some
soft,
chill, jazzy.
maybe some jazz, maybe some like R&B. This man plays coming in hot. And so he's like, when the beat drops, that's when you come out. And I'm like, oh my goodness. So like he wants to set this thing on fire. So I'm like, I defend with I was doing what I was told.
No, right. You were not defending what you did. Greg comes out and literally is like, come on, everybody. Like lifting his hands up and down and like gets people on their feet to cheer for him.
And then immediately slams on the brakes and he's like, all right, time for a poem.
And then we just
funny.
switch it up. Yeah.
Man.
So, and then you did, I think, what, one piece or two pieces then? Two?
I think
Everyone
I
did
did
multiple pieces, didn't they?
two.
Yeah.
I think I did two.
But we went back and
initially.
forth.
The beginning I did two.
Two, and then
I did one later.
two,
towards the end.
Sergine, me, Doc, and then you,
me. We went back in the
Sergine,
same
me.
order. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Nice.
and Doc didn't come back up because the plan was with a singer songwriter, there was going to be like 3 or 4 slots where the singer songwriter came up and just did one song to kind of make a continuation. People who weren't about spoken word would still stay because there was something that they could connect with. Doc was like, "Yeah, I'm not splitting up my set. Like, I'm doing all of it at once."
Yeah.
Like, all right, okay, diva. So he did his like 3 songs right in the middle, but it ended up being perfect. Like it all worked out.
Yeah, it offered a nice break, even though at first I know Scott was like, "What do you mean you're not splitting up your set? Like, what do you mean?" He's like, "No,
It's like,
this
nah,
is gonna work,"
nah,
and we
I'm
had to
doing it all
trust him,
together.
and it worked.
It was fine.
Yeah,
It was fine. I was worried that people would leave because here's the thing people don't understand. This was the first time ever that spoken word was at Creation Festival,
yeah,
Oh, word.
yeah.
which was, and that's kind of cool to be like
Literally.
advocacy for the genre, for the art form as a poet, as a spoken word artist. I was super proud of that. Like that we were the ones to be able to get in and make something happen. Are there better spoken word artists in the country than me? Yeah. I've actually thrown other names at them year after year after year. Like, you should get Chris Webb. You should get Genetics. You should get Ezekiel. You should get Preston Perry, Jackie Hill Perry. Like all these people that I've told them, like, yo, you should book these people. Joseph Solomon back in the day. And tried to, get them to use these poets in the flow of the festival, and they just never really pulled the trigger, whether it's from a budgetary standpoint or a flow standpoint or just not seeing the value of poetry. But they trusted me enough to give me this, subset tent stage hour. And I think what we did was really good.
Yeah.
Like the feedback that was happening, like from Creation staff, like they were like, that was awesome.
Nice.
Like
nice.
that was really, really good. So
Yeah, we definitely showed them something they've never seen before. And then it was like, it wasn't like poetry was new and then the only people that came were the 4 poetry fans at the festival.
Right.
No, it was like most of the people in that entire crowd
Had
of
never
about
heard
150
spoken
didn't know what poetry and spoken word was. They've heard of English class, but they didn't know beyond that. They didn't know beyond
Yeah,
Robert Frost.
Yeah.
Yep.
It was an experimentation on their part.
Edgar
and
Allan Poe.
You did your best to blow them away, and you did.
Yeah.
I think,
Also,
I think it's going to open up doors for more.
I'm really glad the turnout was good.
Yeah.
Even though like it might have been partially because of the rain.
Even though you dipped the day before.
Okay, I had in my defense, I had church stuff on Friday, so my bad. Sorry, guys.
Oh, I work for
I have a job. But no, it was dope. Like I'm really glad that people actually like went, even if it was because of the rain. Like that's still
still
a
listen.
huge W, right?
Oh, it was a big W for sure. And I think the other big W was like Greg and Sergine doing a gig with us because we still, we're even at this taping of this episode, like we're still formulating and figuring out what right poetry is or isn't. But one thing for sure is like we care about each other.
Yeah.
We value each other's art. And when one of us gets an opportunity, we're making sure that the others get the same opportunity.
Exactly.
Like we're letting each other know about gigs, about open mics, about places to perform. And we've been just trying to go places together. And I think for that to turn into like Creation Fest, I think was like a cool, like, stewarding the relationships that God has given you, right? Like if Greg and Sergey weren't willing to go to Miss Seeley's Blues on a Tuesday night or whatever, I wouldn't necessarily be as adept to say, hey, do you want to perform at Creation Fest? But because we're already building relationship and moving towards something, whenever I got the opportunity with Creation Fest, I was like, okay, who am I going to give this to? I'm going to give this to my friends that have been pursuing doing poetry as ministry already. Yeah. You know?
Yeah. And I want to say, Scott, like, we appreciate that you do that.
Yes.
Because you don't have to, you know, like you've been doing poetry far longer than us, and you could have just found maybe people that were better, you know. But I think, like we've been saying, that this pod is all about is relationships. And so to say we're going to further relationships here with poetry, and to go from a Philly open mic where we all perform together, and the next time us all performing together is Creation, was just really special.
Yep. It's a good thing. I appreciate you appreciating that. Around the same time as the sorry. I'm just trying to transition over here, guys. Still got one more
Transition
set.
of appreciation.
I don't know how to take compliments either, so that's part of the problem.
Same.
You
It's
know,
like, well,
I'm
let's-
super awkward over here. I'm just an awkward.
This was a great compliment. Let's move on. All right.
Thanks, Greg. Thanks, Greg. But something that happened that actually none of us were there for, in terms of Jarrett, Esty, or myself, but you were there, Greg, was the Rick and Demir got a conversation with Bill started where they had a late night person not show up, and they were trying to fill the after party set with somebody, and decided to ask Rick and Demir. And then you ended up basically being like the host MC of that. So tell us about that fourth and final set.
Yeah. So I just want to tell you how this went down. So we're all at the Fringe stage. Rick, Demir, myself. Also, it'll come in later. Josh Twala is there. Shout out to Josh T. Josh Twala, awesome producer, awesome friend. He's just in the crowd hanging out, and we're listening to Halvey. And so we're just there. Halvey's there. His DJ is there. And all of a sudden, like, I see Demir, like, disappear into the back. And I'm like, okay, this is weird. And I'm next to my friend Apollos, who is a drummer. And now he gets signaled. And I'm like, well, I have the band. I can go too. And so I just kind of follow. I'm like, you know, sorry, Creation. But I'm like, I'm going to follow. I have the...
You said, I got that artist band, bro.
I have the pass. Let me see what's going on here. And so we get back there, and Bill's there, and the stage manager that we talked about earlier that was really rooting for Demir and has just been trying to support him is there. And they're basically like, hey, we thought you did an amazing set. We are in a bind. The DJ that was on with Halvey at the time, there was a miscommunication. He already had planned to leave. They thought he was the guy that was going to do the after party. They're like, we need somebody. Now, at this point, though, almost the entire crew, other than us, other than myself, Rick and Demir, and Apollos, and our friend Simone, had all left. Everybody had gone home. And so this is all we got. We don't have a DJ. We're like, hey, we'll do it off a laptop, do these things. Like, and they're like, sure. They didn't even care at that point, which... Yeah, I'm so glad we didn't end up doing it off a laptop.
Yeah, you guys got the other DJ.
Yeah, so we ran into Josh T, and he's like, hey, this needs to be done excellence. Find another DJ, and let's make it happen. I'm like, okay. And there was this guy at the competition, DJ Integrity. Shout out Integrity. It was really cool getting to know you.
He does some really cool Twitch streams and
he's
stuff,
just
too.
like, does Twitch, and he's already featured Rick, Demir, and Aaron in his like playlists. Like, he plays their music a lot. Which is really cool. So we were talking to him after the poetry set, and so I was like, hey guys, what if we do DJ Integrity? Ask him if he can join us.
Oh, it was your idea, Greg.
Yeah, I just brought him up.
Go ahead, Greg.
Because he was there. I was like,
argue.
there's this guy. He was there. Let me invite
Way to
him.
go.
And so they call him into the tent, which was the tent that we did poetry. He doesn't even know why we're there. We all start clapping. Yeah, you made it. You made it. He doesn't even realize that we asked him to do this after party. So then we just start planning that night. There are like two more main stage performances. I think it's Bethel and KB, and then it's us, and we're in the tent. And so we're planning out how we're going to do this. And then as people are leaving KB, they're coming to us, and we're in the tent, and we're making it happen.
And it was lit. It was absolutely insane. I was actually headed from Creation back to Western PA. So I was like not even headed back to Philly to where I could have turned around and came back. I was actually going the other way to the other side of the state because I had a wedding on Saturday, which is why there was just no way for me to stick around longer at Creation. But the videos and stuff were hysterical because people were just going nuts.
Nice.
And it was like one of those things where you could tell, all right, Aaron and Rick, new commodities at Creation, doing main stage. People are like warming up to write.
Yeah.
Thursday, Fringe Stage, all those people are coming to that. We're pulling more people in. Oh, wow, this is awesome. Poetry Stage, hey, come check this out too. And like all these different people over the course of 3 days, then they all come to the after party, culminating set, where just like everything that we had done building up to that point was what helped, the Friday night set go so well.
Yeah, and I will say, like, just one story to kind of give you a sense of how crazy it was. So there's tons of people in the front of the stage, and Demir and I both had taken turns jumping off of the stage. We just jumped off of the stage into the crowd, but then Demir is about to jump, and I forget which song it was, but he's about to jump in, and he has his mic with him, and he's still rapping the song, jumps, falls on somebody, falls down, the mic like breaks like for a second. I think the battery comes out, and then Rick keeps going. Demir gets backed up there. The sound guy passes him another mic, and he keeps going. Like, you would think this is like a rock concert. Like, he's just switching mics, performing. We're throwing water on the kids, like hanging from poles. Like, it was just crazy. There's like a pole next to the stage, and I'm just like hanging off of it. And Demir and Rick are going wild. DJ Integrity was teaching people to do the Cupid Shuffle. Like, it was just a blast.
Amazing, yeah.
Like, the teenagers probably had a wonderful time, and the leaders were probably happy because they were probably all knocked out after we did that.
True. That's so true.
Put them through the ringer. Get rid of the sugar rush. No, it was awesome, man. That was it, man. CreationFest.
Yeah.
2022 was a vibe. I just want to create a little bit of space. One of the reasons why we wanted to have Greg on, because we always talk about impact of an event. Who did it impact? What's the story of, somebody's life that got touched from that? Who did it matter for? And so Greg, I thought, had a really cool testimony that he shared with us whenever it happened, and then even post the festival. And so when we thought about doing this episode, I was like, Greg really needs to be on this one, not just because he performed, but because of this story. So I just would love for you to wrap up the episode with the kind of this story that you shared with me.
Yeah, that sounds good. And thank you guys for listening. Thank you for being here. And thanks for supporting us to have opportunities like this, that we can be impacted. So I just want to say that we was after the poetry set, and I'm walking back off of the stage, and people are like, okay. So somebody like comes to me as like, hey, Greg, this woman wants to talk to you. I'm like, all right. I was talking to other people, talking about poetry, and this woman happened to be in a wheelchair. Her name is Amanda, and she's like, hey, I'd love to show you some of my poetry. And I was like, cool, okay. She's like, it's actually going to be featured in this book that they're writing for people that are disabled. They're creating this entire poetry journal. It's going to be featured in it. I'm like, that's awesome. What's it about? And she begins to tell me how this poem was about her best friend that had committed suicide. And my heart begins to drop as I hear that. I'm like, wow, okay. And she's telling me more about it. And she's like, yeah, like he was so influential to me because he helped me when I was going to commit suicide. And then having this accident that had impaired her, and now she is subject to a wheelchair. And we just talked about it, and I was like, I want to read it. And then I was like, hey, do you mind if I pray for you? And just a slight backstory. As I was coming into creation, like I was really trying to figure out, God, like, why am I here? There were things I was seeing, things I was like working through. I was like, Lord, like, I know I'm here to perform, but like I feel like there needs to be more. You know, I don't just want to perform. I'm struggling with what's my purpose here. And this moment kind of just captured that for me, and God was just kind of speaking to me because I began to pray for her. And I remember by the Spirit, I prayed, and I was talking about different things in her grief, and just praying for her, and praying that she would be able to just know God deeper and love him, and all these different things. And when I said amen, she looked at me and she was like, hey, I just want to thank you for not praying that I would be healed of my wheelchair disease, of this impairment. And I was like, oh, really? She's like, yeah. I've been to Creation so many times. I've been prayed for by like 200 people, and nobody asks me what I want prayer for.
Wow.
They assume that I need prayer for my body to be healed. She's like, that'll be taken care of. I want other people to know Jesus. I want to experience his love deeper. I want to grow. And I was like, wow. So here am I trying to figure out what I'm supposed to do. Is this even worth it? You know, and she's like, it doesn't even matter about my present situation. It just matters about that the love of Christ goes out. And we just kind of talked about this cycle of need that we need, where when we need God, when we cry out to our need for God, he shows up and then shows us how we can pour out for others in their need. And it just keeps happening. And so that even encouraged me, like, I need to be needy. I need to be coming to God at his feet and like, Lord, I don't got it. You know, I need to know more. I need to know you more. And so that was impactful, and that kind of made it for me, you know, that made it worth it. And I got to read her poem, and we've talked a little bit since, and she's so influential. So thank you, Amanda, for just having this conversation with me. And last thing I would say is, it kind of wraps it up, is I only got to see that because I was intentional with her. So we have to be intentional with the people around us when we're going to gigs, when we're doing things like this, like, because you may have missed a beautiful person by just saying hi.
Yeah. So good, man.
Bars.
So good. Yeah. Thank you for that story, man. It's so raw. And, you know, I've just been kind of blown away by this whole podcast experience, you know, seeing how God knits things together and how he makes, you know, like the open doors are for specific people. Like he's obviously the God who goes after the one. And, you know, stories like Amanda kind of remind you of, like, regardless of how you feel about what's going on with the rest of the event, or ways that you feel like, is this for me, or am I supposed to be here? You know that God has you on assignment. And, you know, I think every time we step into a space, not just to do the gig, but to be on assignment, these types of stories happen, you know, and this type of impact takes place. And I to me, I actually think that that's where you get the invitation to come back is when you are focused on ministry and not just on the music, you know, or the music is an avenue to do real ministry, and not the other way around, you know. And yeah, I just appreciated that story so much, and I appreciated our time there at Creation. And I actually appreciated even more than Creation was our debrief after, even as hard as it was, and, you know, kind of going back and forth and arguing quite a bit as a team. You know, a lot of the things we were pressing into was like, if we do this again, we need to be more intentional with the entire time that we're there. And that might mean not pulling away from camp, to like not going and getting an Airbnb to be more comfortable, but doing a campsite where we could bring kids in and do worship every night, right? Like, look for ways to do real ministry, because without that, I don't know if performing at CreationFest, as cool as it is worth the trip, the time, the effort, the money. But if it's with ministry and there is an impact you can make on people's lives, 100% it's worth it. It's worth the trip, 10 out of 10. Yeah. And I think your story was like a good punch to the gut for all of us of like, yeah, this is why we're here. If this isn't why we're here, we shouldn't be here. And so I appreciated that so much. and I know everybody else did as well.
Yeah.
As Greg alluded to, we appreciate you, the people who listen to this podcast as well. It's because of all of you guys that we're able to do the ministry of Ripe Creatives and have stories and moments like this with people like Amanda. We really appreciate your support. And so thank you for partnering with us. This podcast is an expression of our gratitude to you. And if you're here and you don't partner with us and you would like to consider doing so, just jump on our website at ripecreatives.com and click the give button if you want to become a partner with us so that we can do more stuff like this. So we appreciate y'all. Jarrett, Esty, Greg, any final thoughts about CreationFest?
No, I don't think so. It was great. It was a good time. Really happy to be there and hang with the right peeps.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, just thankful that they brought us out and we got the show out.
Yeah.
It was a good time. Good experience. we summarized it well.
Yeah.
There's nothing left to say.
Nothing left to say except one thing. Stay right.
They just want the bands and the checks, want the bands and the checks, want the bands and the checks. What you want now? They just want the bands and the checks, want the bands and the checks, want the bands and the checks. What you want now? What you want?